Hello. Good. Okay, it's 6:40, and at this time, I'd like to call.
Oh, you're on now.
Wow. It's now 6:40 and 30 seconds, and I'd like to call the Water and Sewer Committee together to discuss some emergency roof repairs at 202 Bell Street. I think we need, Jason Cripps, you're the winner of the bid that we just let. Do you care to come up and explain to us what your recommendations are so we can make an informed decision, please?
Nolan, I don't, I have a copy of the proposal that I gave you guys, but Shirley probably has the actual bid itself, the amount. Shirley, do you have that?
I think I do. Here's the actual bid, Jason. If you need.
Okay. Well, I'm just,
Invitation to bid. If that's what you're after.
right. And that, yep. So. let me borrow this one.
Sure.
The bid aspect was $69,171. And to go through and explain that, I would recommend some changes to this. Although we can, obviously this comes before you guys. We can do it just as it is spec'd, but I do have some recommendations and I'll explain why that I have those recommendations.
Thank you.
If we could go to the next. Okay. This, it's a huge warehouse on the whole roof area. If you take the roof as a whole, you're looking at over almost 500 square. So what was that, 50,000 square feet. So it's a substantial roof area. This area here is what we refer to in the bids as the electrical room. And if you'll notice, this is all one level as the main warehouse roof. So if you just bid this section, you see this actual roof breaks. This is offset from the main roof. So if you just do that section, then you have to put some type of either a parapet wall or an expansion joint or something down through there to separate the roofs. So this section would be old, this would be new, this would be old. So plus you're taking off essentially about 3 inches of roof off the warehouse. What my suggestion was is to wait about doing that until you do the main warehouse. In other words, since that's all connected, to do all of that at one time. And we haven't bid the main warehouse yet. So, and that is obviously that's the area, right? That's the electrical. Now that's just a suggestion. This bid that we bid included doing it as a part, but all right, could we go to a couple others? Yeah, just hold it right there. There's some discussion in there about the gutters. The main warehouse is in desperate need of gutters. All right around the main warehouse. This is a gutter system. You can't see it, but there is no gutter. I mean, it's just a hole through the gutters. All this light that you see here is where the water is just running down the wall. And it's deteriorating the wall to the point that the block are basically coming apart on the inside. There's some, well, in fact, in this one area, there's a pretty good crack in the block. So it's you're gonna get into some major repairs if something's not done in a relatively, I mean, it's been like that for some time, but let me go to another slide and I'll show you some other stuff. All right, keep going. Oh, is it? Okay. All right, I'm sorry then. Let me see if I got, did any of this other, yeah. Well, I apologize. On the, I can use this. It's hard to see right here, but this is the front of the building. This is actually about an 18-foot offset, 236 feet. That is offset from the main warehouse. Now, where it attaches to the main warehouse, is about a 2-foot step up. So that is pretty easily done. In other words, excuse me, it's pretty easily separated from the rest of the warehouse to come in and just do that portion. That is of course, it's all leaking, but that's where the offices are. In other words, the administrative type offices. Heath has an office in there. And in fact, it's stripping on his desk. But that section is easily separated and done without even touching the other part. Now, the bid called for doing that section and doing the electrical section. And it also called for doing the gutters on that section. However, the gutters on that section of the roof have been redone. In other words, quite frankly, the gutters that are there are 6-inch gutters. They're secured every 2 foot, just as you would want. And they're as good as anything that we would come in and do. So I would, quite frankly, leave those gutters in place. There's nothing wrong with them. The gutters are included in the bid because that's how it was spec'd. And I basically have gone through and itemized everything on the job so that you could break it down and kind of pick and choose, if you will, what you wanted to do, what you didn't want to do, and the cost associated with it. So my recommendation, not to knock myself out of a job, but would be to delay the electrical room until you did the main warehouse and do all the front, because that's where the offices are, and they've got pretty good leaking in that area. To go and do all that, to not do, almost forgot to. This whole warehouse here does have, it has a center ring running down through there, and it does have some slope. It was built with some slope on the building. In other words, the roof structure has slope built into the integrity of the building. On the front, apparently that was added on at a later date. It does not have a slope. It's as flat as a slope. So, again, a bid is spec. And so my bid, the original bid, had just put an insulation board on there, but you would need to put what we call a tapered insulation board to give that some drainage, some slope to get the water off. So, but again, I've broken everything down. So the gutters are good on the front part of the building. The rest of the building, you know, they would need to be replaced, just as it mentioned. And then the front office is there. All that needs to be torn off, redone. The woodwork, I think, is probably pretty good. It does have the main warehouse has a metal deck on it. The front offices are wood deck, so there may be some rot there, but not at this point. There's not a lot of not a lot.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I just want to clarify something. The electrical room, did you say that roof was flat and it has no slope built in, or?
No, that is part of the main warehouse structure, and it does have some slope built into it.
But I think, Rachel, to kind of to help you understand, you, all of us really to understand it. I think that what's happened over time, and as you can tell, that the right-hand section of that roof is quite a bit whiter than the other. So at one point in time, I believe that lighter colored roof has been replaced. Doesn't it look like that to you, Jason? That
yeah, or it's been there's been a coating up there at one point.
So it's been rehabilitated to some extent.
Right.
But I believe the problem that we have there is the degradation of the insulation that's underneath that, which causes ponding and water to sit. And then when it takes on weight, it just continues to compress over time. So there's no hope for that. And Jason, I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, and I wanted to tell you that I apologize for the specification calling for that electrical room. I've been told that it was at a lower level. I didn't take the time to go over there myself to verify that. So that's on me. I apologize. I just relied on information.
These, this area right in here is where you see these are actually very large dams. That's what the whole irrigation is. In that area there. And, you know, we're actually, those dams are actually tilted over because of the deck was deteriorated on it. So,
In the specification, and again, you know, it's on me because I wrote it, but the gutters that I was specifically talking about, and I apologize for not clarifying that, was to replace the elevated section of gutter so we could control the flow off of the main roof onto the newer replace roof. So should we choose to do that?
right.
And and it's actually a little bit more footage than the front of the building right there, as you can tell.
Right.
But those, if we can't control, in my opinion, if we can't control the water that comes off the main part of the roof, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, you know?
Yeah, I actually, I was talking to Heath earlier and when I was going through and looking at the specifications, I knew exactly. I sent these, I apologize that you didn't get them, but that's the area there that
Yes.
you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
I knew that's what you were thinking.
As usual, I didn't communicate it.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I mean,
So,
Oh.
so what would you do?
I would recommend that we replace the lower roof and we replace the upper gutter to control the flow from the main part of the roof onto the new roof area, because those are in just as bad a shape as what you saw in the back. Of the building.
yeah, the gutters around the perimeter of the main warehouse. However, I probably wouldn't do that until, you know, you did the roof or whatever. I mean, it's a, because all that material's got to come off over those gutters. Yeah, in other words, if you put new gutters up, when you do the main warehouse, all that roof's got to come off over those gutters. So, but again,
And-
I'm just here.
I understand. And the reason that I would make that recommendation is because the amount of time that it's going to take to get that job engineered because of the slope and because of the slope in the roof, we're going to have, if that ends up being late, and that's not part of this discussion, but just to give you some context, whatever we decide to do, if we decide to put a wood truss roof over that or a steel truss roof over that, because of the slope that's built into the building itself, we're going to have to elevate the heel height, which would be the front and the back of the building, to get a level bearing surface all the way around. That's going to be quite a bit of work, and it's going to require quite a bit of detail to get a good comparative bid from contractors. And we're getting ready to go into the rainy season. And I think while it may be an expense that we would have to just absorb, possibly eat if they damage it later on, I think that if we neglect replacing those gutters right now, we're just going to damage the good money that we've spent. And so it would be just if we have a wet winter, which they're forecasting, I really don't see that main part of that roof getting done over the winter. Should we decide to do it as a group? So that would be
That's in here.
that would be my recommendation. So I know that's a lot of information, and I know we conflated the two, mixing in the bigger roof with the lesser roof, but the bottom line is we've got to do something with that roof over the administrative offices right there. We're damaging property in their desk. You know, every time that it rains, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And that was the reason for the quick bid, the quick specification, and Jason responded, and we've got it here. Although with the options, what I would suggest is that as this resolution is written, that we have a maximum bid not to exceed the $69,000. And I personally don't think that we need to do anything other than authorize the 69,171. That way we have some room, because this is going to be like a can of worms. When he opens it up, we don't know what we're going to see. And I don't think what we need to do is get in a situation where we have to say, stop. We got to have a public meeting notice, then we got to have another committee meeting, then we got to have another board meeting. Meanwhile, we've got damage going on. So I suggest, do you concur with that?
Well, that would be, that would allow you to do the gutters, to do the tapered insulation, to do pretty much what you wanted to with all that front.
And then also give us a little fluff in case we have to repair decking and everything else.
If you'll look on the second page there, there's a 53, and again, not to knock myself out of work, but there's the bid there for 53,809. Excluded, in other words, I took the electrical room out of that, and I took the gutters out of that. Again, everything is itemized on that. So that's where the 53, and I've double checked the numbers. Obviously, you guys are welcome to make sure that my math is correct, but that's where the numbers came from. If you wanted to put the gutters back, to put that upper gutter back on there, then you would simply come over and add on the $4,060 onto that. But Stacy's right in the fact that that would give you some fluff for decking, or,
Just unforeseen stuff, because this is going to be the proverbial can of worms. When we
Right.
open it, we really don't know what we're doing, and we don't want to have to suffer further property damage, in my opinion, to wait to get approval to do it. I would suggest that we just authorize the maximum bid, and then we basically expect our $53,000 number. And then we can all go through the proper channels to deal with the can of worms if we encounter it. I don't know that we will, but it's very likely we're going to have some surprises.
I don't foresee very much of a problem with that other. I mean, the 53,809 included the tapered insulation. In other words, that's coming in, and that 53,809 was everything but the gutters. If you decide to come in there and put those gutters on now the gutters are, in other words, the warehouse is slightly longer than what the administration offices are. So if you put gutters all along the front, it would be a little bit more than that 4,060, but very minimum, maybe a few $100s or something. I didn't measure that because I didn't anticipate, that.
I understand. My fault.
So, Steve,
So the electrical room is in the same roof system as the big warehouse.
Same elevation.
Are there leaks in that specific area where they're in the electrical room?
yes, sir.
I mean, how urgent, how big a problem is that to wait until we do? Is there any way to temporarily help that one area
Well, and that's
just
why,
till we do the whole thing?
There's been quite a bit of discussion between Heath and Ricky and Stacy and myself as to patch this thing, if you will. I don't care for the term, but that's what it is. And quite frankly, I haven't to go and find. Let's see, can you go to one of the other pictures?
We're going to run out of time.
All this area right here. Sagging, a lot of quite frankly, sometimes we're talking about something the size of. We're not. When you have a lot of water there, it doesn't take much of a hole to make a pretty good leak. And so we're trying to find that. It's not like last year's Easter eggs. It's just extremely difficult. So I would say the odds are pretty slim on doing a temporary
In that one area?
in that area. Yeah.
I don't want to cut this off, but we're going to start getting into our regularly scheduled meeting. So I have to ask, is there any further discussion? Does anybody need any clarification?
Well, I thought we were really concerned about the electrical.
Well, we're really concerned about the administrative offices and the electrical room, but it looks to me like the electrical room is prohibited at this time due to the larger issue that we have with the building.
Well, and which he brings up a good point. We can do the electrical room. I mean, we can come in there and tear that section of roof off. We can tie it in to the other, but when we come and eventually when we do the warehouse, we're going to be tearing all that out. the expansion point that we created down through there, all that'll be coming out, you know, when we do that. Like, the time that- It can be done, I'm just saying, it's additional work, we're creating additional work for ourselves. But frankly, it's not something you would normally like to do in the scope of things. However, that would obviously stop the leak in the electrical. So again, down about midway, I've kind of broken the electrical room down. And it's a little bit more than just an electrical room. The thing is 95 feet long by roughly 17 feet. And so it's a pretty good little area there. So
with
you
the-
can do it. You know.
So-
On the electrical, I think if we could expedite doing the rest of the building, you know, and not drag our feet with it, if we're gonna do it, I think wait and do the building as a whole. I think you'll get a better job. That's my personal opinion. I don't know about piecing it, coming back to where that barrier's at and putting that together, because I've seen them leak there before. Just depends on how fast we want to move with doing the rest of it.
Just to be sure, you're still advocating the replacement of the administrative offices,
Yes.
full stop, but wait on the main body of the building till a later time, as long as we do it with all due haste.
Yeah, because I think that on the tapered insulation was gonna be what, 3 months to get it, 2 months maybe?
Yeah, that's the other thing. When you build with the commercial aspect of roofing now, everything is delayed. In fact, I called the supplier that we normally use, and he told me right now, in fact, he went ahead and made out the ticket just so that we can hold it when we got it. He said it would be Christmas
Before you could do any of it.
before we would get the insulation. If he put an order in today, he said it would be next August.
I understand that very well.
I've been in the roofing for 43 years, but I've never seen it like that.
So I'm sorry, but we've got to move ahead because we're already over our time. So I would entertain a resolution that we accept the bid not to exceed 69,171. And we just deal with it as it comes, as we get over there and see what goes on.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion, but I'd like to talk further about about timeframe.
Absolutely. I understand. No problem with that.
We'll bring it up in the full board meeting because I've got the resolution already written out and everything here. So we'll have further discussion in the full board meeting.
Okay, well then I guess the motion passes to move that to the full board. Thank you. No further business. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Nolan, did you have one on our agenda?
Thank you.
Thank
You want
you.
to move that to after the meeting?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't think it was going to take that long for that, but it did. If we'll adjourn this meeting at this time. Thank you. Sorry, Mayor.
It is 7:04 and we'll call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the McMinnville City Board of Mayor and Aldermen. The first item on the agenda is roll call. The second item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. Each member of the board should have received those in their packets. If there be no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with those as read.
So move.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey, second by Mr. Everett Brock. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. If any member of the audience wishes to address the board, please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Good day today. My name is Trinidad Ramirez. My address is 74-3 Feathers Lane, McMinnville, Tennessee, 37110. I'm here today to see if I have a response pursuant to Article 18 USC 4 and USC 2382 from the city of McMinnville, the mayor, the vice mayor, and the city council. await your response.
No, the matters that you've brought
Mhm.
before the board have been forwarded to the board's insurance carrier,
Sure.
which has contractual duty and right to manage any exposures for actions brought to or for
Okay,
the
great.
board. That has been referred out, and I can put you in touch, or the reporter can put you in touch with that company's name and a contact person.
Okay, great. And because of that, what I want to do today, the information that I'm giving is the knowledge that is being denied. This information that I'm giving, it comes from the United States Code, Title 18, 3002, Section 15, A, B, and C. And really what it states, what I'm about to tell you is very shocking. So please hold your comments. Let me give you this information because I have it to give it to you.
Mr. Ramirez, we do need to limit you to about 2 to 3 minutes,
Yes,
okay?
yes. And so quickly, right here, right now, I just want to ask you that the Constitution is very important to us. One moment. Because what I have here, and this will be done very quickly, is that the Constitution and the service of all our service members, there were 300 service members that were recognized at the county for their service that had died here in McMinnville. And what I'm saying to you is that we have right here with us this code that lets us know that the United States of America is a corporation, that all 50 states right now signed the national emergency to allow us to use the EUAs the way they're being used, but also the impact of what's happening right now with our city councils. It's very important that you have this knowledge because they're not giving you this knowledge. This knowledge is here to protect every citizen, to protect the rights, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what our Constitution is about. So I'm going to ask you that now that the United States has been dissolved as of last year, May 2020, and the countries that brought that Chapter 11 were China and Saudi Arabia. So I'm sharing with you right now that the actual government, our government right now has been dissolved through a Chapter 11. And here's the information that I'm going to submit to you so that you have it, because this is really scary. I'm scared. I'm military. I worked in the intelligence community, and the things that we do, I'm going to have to pay. These are the charts of the United States and all our counties. There are 3,142 counties in the United States of America. And these counties right here that you are seeing, they're a representation of our military service members and what we protect. Because really, I'm here to protect all of you. I'm just letting you know right now that you have no authority. Once this information comes out, and it is going to come out, and when it does come out, you'll have to answer for the consequences that are coming, because we're no longer under de facto law. We're under de jure law. Your counsel will be able to give you the information that you need on that, but I'm sharing with you right now that the United States of America, in all capital, comma incorporated, has been dissolved. It's gone. That means the court systems are gone. The Supreme Court systems are gone. There's nothing here. Then I would ask you, where is your FEMA event coordinator? Because we are in a national emergency right now. If your FEMA event coordinator is not here, because look, I worked at the Department of.
Mr. Ramirez, I'm going to have to ask you to conclude your remarks,
Yes,
please.
I will, but just know that these are what they're going to come back. I'm here to protect you because I want you to be here for your children. Like I said, we are under de facto, we're no longer under de facto law. So the bankruptcy paperwork, and it also shows that Saudi Arabia and China caused that bankruptcy to happen. And all I'm saying is that right now, if we don't do this together, if we don't go forward from the city of McMinnville, to the county, to the state, to the president, because that's my intention, is to take it to the president, because I have with me right now all the information medically that what we're doing to our schools and in our cities is against the law. And I don't want you all to be arrested. You're going to be arrested by the United States Military Code of Justice, not de facto law. The Code of Justice is going to be fast and furious. The tribunals have already started. And just so that we can have.
Mr. Ramirez,
I'm going to give you some names, just. one
Mr.
last-
Ramirez, you have had sufficient time. I told you 2 to 3 minutes.
Yes. And just so that we can have trust, I'm here to let you know that Bill Gates has already been through his tribunal, and he has been going to go through his execution in October. When this information starts to come out, we'll have some trust together to work with each other. But until then, your FEMA event coordinator is not here in a national emergency. And like I'm saying, once your legal lets you know that our Constitution is over with, we need to start together, and we need to include FEMA, because they're the continuity of government right now with the military. We've all been deceived. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Ramirez, don't forget your uniform.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your service, by the way.
I'm Heath Chris. It's my wife Chelsea Chris. We live on 604 Morrison Street, so I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with that. Bought the house in June. When we bought it, we asked about flood insurance, so on and so on. Told we didn't need it. It's not a flood area. Got paperwork. It's not a flood area. Every time it rains, there's water under our house. That's what our boat work. I got plenty of pictures.
Be careful, I passed them through.
And pretty much when I called the city to get them to come look at it, they just pretty much say it should never been built, shouldn't be over in this area, should never got a permit. So that's kind of like, what options do I have now when they're telling me that? Like, nothing we can do for you. Shouldn't even be over here. But I wasn't told that before I got the house.
Mr. Ming, when we spoke about this, I believe it was a little over a week ago. I know there had been some discussion in that area between yourself and Public Works and stormwater. Where are we in that in terms of getting with TDOT and looking into that area?
My duct work's completely ruined right now. Like I've had a few people quote me.
$6,500.
Yeah, about $6,500. We went 2 or 3 days without air. That's with 12-year-olds, 7-year-olds, stuff like that.
And it's to the point to where it's a safety issue. Like I can't even get out of my driveway. It's 2 to 3 feet. So, I mean, it's just to the point to where it's a safety issue.
I need to check back in on that. Last time our department had reached out to them. I'm not sure.
Because this doesn't only affect them, it affects their neighbors. I mean, transportation up and down Morrison Street was blocked for a couple of days due to the water and the flooding. So, I mean, this.
The road literally gets shut down every time.
Yeah.
Got 2 places beside us. I think they tore the carpet out of them the other day and had to redo those. And like I said, it's every time around. I had to park at the church. You saw me walking to my truck, that's for the church. Because I couldn't get my driver. I got to park up the street for my driver.
If you would mind me to ask a question, Mr. Ming, I just wonder how much of that is contributed by the demise of the Powermatic building. It's just, there's no mitigation at all of the amount of surface water that hits that parking lot and runs off because there's no active build, there's no current building there. And that while that's always been a trouble spot, I don't believe I've ever seen it as bad as it is right now personally.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's gotten worse. Like, I used to go over there before I bought the house, when it had hard rains, and I'd go over and check. Make sure before I buy something, it wasn't that bad. They say no, it's like I said, it's under my house. I had to buy a pump to put under my house. I go out there and turn it on every time it rains pretty much. Like I said, my duct work's running. And
Yes, sir.
I don't have thousands of dollars to throw around. I work hard for my money, so no sense in fixing it. It's gonna happen again.
I understand.
I'm happy to escalate the discussion with CDOT and Public Works.
Yeah, yeah, because the dilemma we have is that's a state right of way, the state road, the ditches, and everything like that. So we're gonna have to talk to the state.
And
But I mean, I'm more than willing to help however we can, because I mean, it's like I said, it doesn't only affect you. It's transportation up and down that whole street. It's your neighbors, it's the church, it's yeah.
That same day, the truck goes off the ditch, it's about to flip over. I mean, it's stuff like that.
It's a lot of water. It's not just like it's a little bit of a, you know, you could just walk through with some rain boots. I mean, it's a substantial amount of water.
Yeah, I think on some of the pictures you can see, I think our foundation's about 3 times, something like that. It was
You
all
could
laid.
kind of see on the pictures where it dried. I took them after the fact because I couldn't get out there while it was happening.
By the way, I've got video and pictures from the day too. When I forward it,
I got plenty. I mean, that's just a few pictures. There's plenty of pictures. Let's see if I can just get some mail.
well,
Yeah, it's not going to be quick. I'm going to be very forthright with you on that, because again, we're going to have to go through TDOT and the state and stuff like that. But again, we're more than willing.
I mean, whatever steps I gotta take, I mean, I'm not saying like that. I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do as well. So, it's fine. I know it's not gonna be so quick.
Which of the houses, after you go past Sixth Avenue there, which, are you the first, second, third house? Second house?
But my neighbor's house, actually, they don't even get affected by it.
Yeah, they're a little bit up
A little
the
bit higher.
hill.
That's why I can't understand. I mean, why he just wouldn't build the house back, but anyway, so, but yeah, I'm the second house on the right.
well,
Didn't we
personally,
discover a problem with one of those drains like last year or?
we stuck a TV camera as far as it would go. That's I don't remember exactly how long, but it's very long. It goes from the front of the block plant
Right.
on the road all the way to behind the church to the railroad side. And there's a difference in elevation, and where that elevation change in the drain line happens, I guarantee that's where a lot of the water is getting stopped up. That happens on private property, so that's one issue. Another issue was that I think we found we were stuck in the drain when we did the TV. So never know what you're calling. I think it's a design issue.
That
So
would be
is-
private property being either General Shell or Westwood Church, one of the two, right?
Yeah, it crosses both.
So the entirety of the side of Morrison is TDOT authority. I mean, we have no,
whatever the right of way width is from the center of the road, is it 25 feet from the center of the road? Is TDOT responsibility on a state right of way?
I think it might be different.
It's different for each road.
Yeah.
Probably. That's probably the general rule of thumb.
I personally think that it's going to take all of us. I think it's going to take you, it's going to take us, it's going to take streets, it's going to take General Shell, it's going to take the McGee family partnership, because I think that's contributory. It's going to have to be a joint effort in the church. That's right, Westwood Church. It's because it's a considerable issue and everybody around it's affected, and those are pieces of property that are contributing to your issue. Thank you for your patience though, but we will do something with it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Hey y'all, I'm Stacy Lee, 120 Omni Drive. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good to see you.
thank you for serving our wonderful county that we live, play, and spend money and do all that. I'm just here to continue to remind us of the Tennessee Constitution. So here we are again. That all power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded in their authority, as in the people's authority, and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, which it's kind of hard to make everybody happy, right? To the advancement of those ends, they have at all times an unalienable and indefeasible right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such a manner that they may prosper. Okay, so that's the people. So please just remember us when you're making decisions. I know that we pass the bar to you to make decisions, and we haven't really had a great attendance and giving a lot of feedback. I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to get our citizens more involved so they understand how government works. It doesn't feel so far away and removed. And hopefully people will start watching the videos and showing up and giving feedback. But please just remember that the Tennessee and United States Constitution are founded on the people and the power of the people. Section 2, the government being instituted for the common benefit, the doctrine of non-resistance against arbitrary power, and any oppression is absurd, slavish, and destructive to the good and happiness of mankind. Section 3, that all men have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God according to the dictates of their own conscience. And again, I just want to take a moment to ask for God's mercy and reminder that for me, Jesus is my savior, and I always look to him first. And I did remind everybody last time that when you take an oath of office, that you admit to the being of God. And I hope that everyone here would be directed in their hearts, speaking to God first and last every day, and make decisions based on your godly connections. And if anybody ever needs prayer, I'm here for that too. God bless y'all.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to communication or recognition of employees. There are several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to acknowledge an employee contribution, speak now. Mr. Main.
Since there's no one else, I'll go ahead and talk about 2 weeks ago, our AC unit went out on the 3rd floor. And just to summarize, the fire department, police department, public works, water, myself, I don't know if I helped, I was probably missing being there, but we all got together, they all got together and took the new AC unit on the roof. How they all got together and came up with a solution to save us some money. So, thank you all.
Certainly. Thanks for everyone who contributed to that. The next item on the agenda is communications. There are none in the packet. Did anything else come in? No. Item 6 is petitions. There are none. Item 7 is unfinished business. There is nothing listed, but does any member of the board wish to bring any unfinished business? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Item 8A is consideration of RFP for Blue Building.
So Katie is passing out to you a timeline. I believe in your packet you have received, and many of you received before even the packet came out. It's the RFP that we have created. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on this, and real happy about that. But we have a couple of items just to kind of make sure that we clarify prior to the release of the RFP. So The most important one, which I'll go ahead and jump to, which is the project timeline. That's the calendar that Katie passed out for you. I know that was a considerable discussion at the last meeting, and so I just wanted to kind of go through that with you and make sure that everyone's comfortable with that time frame. So we're looking at, and then if you have suggestions or want to move some things, we can discuss that. We're looking at distributing the RFP actually tomorrow. That would be on the city's website. I've also contacted an agency that's referred to as Bid Prime, that they harvest RFPs from mostly larger cities, and they send it to their customers that might be interested in that. So it's actually free of charge. I'm just letting them know that we, as our city, is going to be releasing something that's much more substantial than what we might normally be releasing. And so they have said that they're comfortable with releasing that to their clientele. So there's also another website that I found. It's called the Urban Land Institute. And so I've contacted them about potentially posting that as well. But so that would be released tomorrow. And then you would see that the RFPs would actually be due in 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks this is where we kind of had the discussion, is we don't want to make it too long, but yet we want to give people sufficient time to respond. One thing I do want to let everyone know is that with an RFP submittal process, we really legally, and I won't get into the details, but legally we have to make sure that that we're not saying, we can't just say, okay, well, you haven't got everything in, we'll wait a day and receive it. It's a much more stringent process because you have people that are competing against each other for this grant, the money. So I think it's important to note that a lot of what we receive in our department, we can be a little more flexible with deadlines. But with this, we really have to kind of to stay firm with that. And so that it would be due on the 20th, and then we would look to shortlist a week later the proposed submittals. And then after that, we would look to maybe, if we needed to, have developer presentations on the first week of November, and then look to actually award a contract or a preferred developer and move towards a letter of understanding and finalizing an agreement on the board meeting, which would be the Tuesday, November the 9th. So that's the time frame that myself, Nolan, your city administrator, and Mr. Pirtle, we've kind of put our heads together and think it's the most appropriate. But we wanted to have discussion specifically on this item here tonight if there needed to be before we release that.
Just for me, it's less than 6 weeks, 6 weeks minus a day from RFP distribution to the developer selection.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think that's a pretty accelerated timeline for a project of this scope. So
Mm-hmm.
personally, I'm very pleased with that. Thank you for your combined efforts
Mm-hmm.
on that. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I personally think this is as quick as we can do it, but not too quick. So.
You talked about there being very strict on the deadline and what
Mhm.
information they get in. And if somebody doesn't submit everything, that they can't submit it after the deadline.
Yeah.
But I think I read in the proposal that we can also, that doesn't, just because someone doesn't meet every single criteria of the request, doesn't mean they can't be chosen for.
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are factors and criteria to look at to weigh. And that's in that project selection. The other thing I'll mention is that we can, and I have a clause, we have a clause in there for this, we can ask for more additional information. So what I would suspect, and what I think is likely will occur, is that a group will bring their submittal, and as you read through it, as we read through it, as I read through it, we'll come up and say, well, I have a question about this. How would you do this? Or how exactly would you propose to do X, Y, and Z. And so those are the things we can ask for additional information. But if there's nothing in there that doesn't allow us to ask that additional information, then that's where we have to kind of draw the line. So there are things they can add, but I just want to make it clear that, you know, we've got to get those submittals in on that certain date for legal reasons. And the main thing to think about it is if you're applying for, let's say, a rezoning with our department, it's just one person that's applying for something. Here, it's multiple parties that are applying for, so you're competing essentially. And that's in a nutshell why we have to be a little more stringent.
Because both lots are combined in this proposal.
Mhm.
And I think that if it's a person who's interested in the lower lot, just for whatever reason, it's probably not going to turn in the amount of information that
Sure.
somebody that's wanting to buy the whole property or interested in the whole property.
And that's absolutely, I'd say the amount of information that we are asking for is very much geared towards the primary property. I should also mention that we have a clause in there that says you can bid on, or you can submit a proposal for the smaller one. You can for both, or you can, or the larger one. And you as the board have the authority and the right to actually say, well, group A, I think you're better for the larger parcel of property, and group B, you know, if you would like to, we would like to see you redevelop the smaller piece of property. So that is an option.
I just don't want to get ourselves boxed in so that if someone has a proposal that we like, that we can't get more information out of that, that would help us make our, not only help us make our decision, but also may make someone a lot more desirable to have the property than somebody else.
Yeah, and so I have specifically placed a clause in here that says we can ask for more information if for a clarification or for just additional after the deadline. But you know, that first initial submittal has to come in on that date.
Okay.
So I feel like we have our bases covered.
Yeah,
On that, in short.
we could sit here and nitpick this thing forever, but I think it's incumbent upon us to get something out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the other item that I will mention, that since the release of the RFP, that in discussions with Mr. Pirtle and Mr. Ming, if you go to page 4, this would be a proposed edit since your packet had been sent out. The first sentence of that would still be in, but then after that, the second sentence starts with "while the city." We would be proposing to scratch that second and third sentence. And then, so it'd be the rest of the paragraph. And then the second sentence and last sentence in the paragraph would read, "The city will consider proposals to either restore or demolish the building." Just as it make it pretty clear to everyone that we're open to any and all applications.
The other thing too is that we're not required to accept any proposal that comes in. And we can reject all of them for that matter.
Yeah, and that is actually listed in the terms and conditions, I believe, on page 8, number 4. It says the city reserves the right to reject any proposal or all proposals if deemed in the best interest of the city. So we've covered our legal basis there as well.
I have a question about the timeline.
Yeah.
It says on the 9th of November, designated preferred developer. Is that through the Building and Grounds Committee or is that through the full board?
Yeah, that's something we could discuss. I think originally, as we proposed in the, let me get to the right section here for you. Let's see. In the selection process on page 6, the way we've got it listed out is the Building and Grounds Committee would make a recommendation, and myself and Mr. Ming would assist in the process of with that committee, and then the committee would make that recommendation to the full board.
So essentially, timeline would be, we'd be looking, the full board would hear that recommendation on the 23rd of November.
Yeah, that'd be a question for Mr. Pirtle, is if we, the
The
time
only
wise.
caveat I would make is the committee makes the recommendation to the board. The board is in no way bound by the recommendation. It can accept the recommendation, reject the recommendation, or can propose.
I guess looking at this, it's really not the 9th, but the decision could come to a final decision. It
I
would
would-
really be the 23rd at the
Sure.
earliest.
And I would defer that to Mr. Purtle as to whether we can do a recommendation and then an approval on the same night. I'm not sure legally if we can. That'd be a question
It's
for
the
you.
Board's prerogative, and they have the criteria to make that decision.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
will the full board have the information in the proposals before, I mean, is when the committee, although it's a committee's recommendation, it comes from committee to the full board. Will the full board have access to all the proposals before that recommendation?
Absolutely.
So as soon as the committee gets to see them, everybody else gets to see them.
That's correct. Yeah. My initial thinking was that the committee could meet maybe even the day before or the day of, make a recommendation, bring it to the full board. But if the full board, didn't feel comfortable in making that decision, it could be extended out. So that would be, up for discussion. I'm comfortable with moving that back and that would really be your decision.
Someone on the full board might have a totally different idea of who they would want to accept a proposal from, which could take place at the full board meeting, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In the final analysis, the majority vote of the board will carry the vote.
So how do you guys feel about that? Do you want to have it on different days, maybe?
Well, what is going to happen between the developer presentations on Monday, the 1st and the committee meeting on the 9th? I mean, if the committee is meeting on the 1st for those, is the committee going to make a decision then? Or do they need a week to think about it?
So the reason I put in first week of November for the developer presentations is just for some flexibility for those developers that are interested, and then, scheduling a time where everyone can be there. So I'm, whether we did the committee meeting on that Monday or we did it on, the following day, I think there's some flexibility there. We wanted to be as transparent in this to you guys as possible. One thing we could consider doing just for the applicants is put to be determined by the Tuesday, November the 9th, since there's a question about this. That way we can go ahead and get it out. I think that it's, as someone who, as I mentioned in the last meeting, I've been responding to these things for the past 7 years on the other side. I think it's important to let the applicants know when those interviews might be. And then after that, it's not as critical to have the dates for them.
23rd is also the week of Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe we typically have our committee meeting prior to the full board. There's a time frame that are bringing up. If that was moved up and had
Yeah, we can certainly.
That's just my reflection on the timeframe.
We can certainly do that. And I would say that when we can have the committee meeting, it will have an impact on when we can get the developer presentations scheduled. If we can get those in the beginning of the week, then, we got more flexibility. But I think after hearing Mr. Sutton's comments, I think just for the release, it's probably best to just scratch the Tuesday, November the 9th and just put to be determined there, and then give people, the applicants a timeline where we'd be looking for.
Because that week before would also be when we're requesting more information. Isn't that in that spot as well?
Yes, that'd be true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So if I'll make that one small change, but everyone seems comfortable with all the other dates, I believe. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. So other than that one edit, I just we'd be here tonight to ask that permission to release this on the city website and any other locations that can give more exposure to this program process that we're excited about.
I would make a motion to follow Mr. Baird's recommendation.
We have a motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Harvey. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Excited about it, and we'll get that out.
Does this go in the newspaper also?
We were going to have an announcement in the newspaper. We don't have the full
It's a lot of
RFP.
information. But in-
Yeah, it's a lot of information to put in the newspaper, but we were thinking we'd have an announcement and then have a link to the city's website. So I'll be working on the details of that tomorrow morning, and we'll get all this out. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other new business to come before the
Mr.
board?
Mayor, might I ask a procedural question?
Yeah.
We obviously, I would like to see if we can suspend the rules to accept the resolution for the emergency roof repairs. That's one thing. The other thing is I would like to see if it's possible, since we didn't get to Nathaniel Green's informative session, if we could give him a couple of minutes to kind of explain what he's working on to the full board, if that's possible.
Yeah, we can put it under announcements if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. At any time. I just don't want Mr. Green and Ms. Hillis to sit here and not get to
Sure.
say their piece.
Resolution 2146 was going to come as item D under resolutions, but we can go ahead now and accept a motion and a second to suspend the rules regarding public notice, given the fact that this is kind of considered an emergency to get those roof repairs underway. So I have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey to do that.
Second.
Second by Mr. Everett Brock. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I had one other question about, you were talking about getting in a situation where something comes up and we had to spend more money. Aren't there some leeway with the administrator or somebody to authorize more funds if it's an emergency like that in no time?
Well, I think the department head has discretionary spending allowed, which would give us a little buffer, as well. Beyond his discretionary spending authority, I'm not aware of Mr. Ming having any supersedes that, but I could be wrong.
Yes, 5.
Mr. Ming has 5.
Yeah.
So that's a combined 10. I don't think we'll need it. I just don't want to put us in a box.
That's fine. I was just wondering.
In the world, guys.
Uh,
I said, Mr. Ming has 5. The committees have 10 and the board's the limit.
Thank you.
Item 9, resolutions. Item 9A is resolution number 2142, a resolution of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to accept the McMinnville Safe Routes to School Bicycle Pedestrian Plan and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Zach Sutton,
Second.
a second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. Any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Zach Sutton,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
all right.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9B is resolution number 2144, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to accept the low bid from Bumpus Harley-Davidson of Murfreesboro for a 2021 Harley-Davidson FL HTP police motorcycle in the amount of $23,752 in accordance with specifications of the city of McMinnville Police Department, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Miss Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
All right.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Aye.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9C is resolution number 2145, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to accept the statewide contract number 209-64470 from Ford of Murfreesboro for 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility all-wheel drive police vehicles in the amount of $100,593 for the city of McMinnville Police Department to authorize the city administrator of the city of McMinnville to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Everett Brock,
Second.
second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. Any discussion?
These are in the budget.
Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote.
Everett Brock,
All right.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Zach Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9D is resolution number 2146, a resolution to authorize the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to accept a bid from Cripps Roofing for replacement of membrane roof and deck insulation at 202 Bell Street in an amount not to exceed $69,171 in accordance with the specifications of the city McMinnville Water and Sewer Department, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when the resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Sally Brock. Discussion. I know, Rachel, you had some questions.
Well, I was just asking about the time frame because I guess in my understanding, it's like you see electrical box and you see water in it, and that seems, I guess I'd want to know how long we had before that. Is that a fire hazard? Is that a problem, or is it, what is the urgency situation with that?
As far as in the electrical building, the electrical room, I know there's water getting in there. I don't know that it's, Heath, is it getting into the electrical panel?
It's actually running down.
And what is that safety proposed when you got somebody working on electrical and they're standing in water? I'm just.
Well, I think I might be able to clarify that a little bit. If you remember the slide that Mr. Cripps had up here, you saw the black mold on the wall. I think that blocks a very porous surface. So in that area, we don't have a gutter. So it runs off the roof, surface tension holds it against that. It migrates through the block into the room. I think that if we do some repairs to the gutter back there, specifically in that area, it would help a lot, but it does need some further investigation. And I would also ask Mr. Baird and maybe someone from your department to come over there and get with us as well. So we have some, not just mine or Jason's or Ricky's opinion. Let's get someone that deals with the life safety of people in the community to come over there and make a recommendation as well. But I personally think that we can handle a lot of that by repairing that gutter in that area, because it wouldn't be getting into the room as bad if it wasn't wicking through the block.
Is there something that we could do literally today or tomorrow to temporarily keep some of this water over, whether it's a tarp on the roof or a tarp inside or I mean, I don't like the idea of a
Like what
water
Jason,
running down.
like what Jason's saying, you could have a pinhole, because that's one solid roof. You could have a pinhole and it's channeling to its weakest point.
I understand, but
We-
you know,
Putting the tarp on it or making a patch to it, from my understanding, may or may not fix.
it's worth, you know, if it's a matter of mopping, you know, some 5-gallon bucket, at least over where we think the water's coming in, you know, what's it cost us? Hardly nothing.
I mean, what you could do is like the bid for the 69,000 would include repairing. He would put the expansion barrier on the backside. The only additional expense that you would have would be the gutters on the backside, the gutters on the front side. And then if there's any kind of wood damage on the decking on the front part, then that would be additional. So you're talking maybe 10 grand from the numbers that he gave us. So that would, if he did the back that he proposed, putting the barrier in there, that would fix that part of the back side of that. He was just saying, when they come back to do the rest of the roof, he would have to tear that back off and then seam piece up to it.
Well,
Depending on
it
who
may
got the
be
job.
10 grand worth spending.
Yeah.
Or basically throwing down a rabbit hole, except for the fact that we got a safety issue and we've got water
Right.
that could end up shutting that plant down.
But you also asked what could be done literally overnight. Gutters
Yeah.
would be something we could pull off in a pretty short amount of
We
time.
could, correct. There's several small steps that we can
Sure.
take over there to alleviate some of that because surface tension is binding it to the block when there's no gutter. So there's several things that we can do. I agree with you 100%. But in my opinion, and I'm no engineer, but that roof replacement is going to be a lot bigger deal than I think people are giving it credit for in that whole building. And I'm not expressing any opinion. That's correct. But I think we can do a little further investigation. We can involve Mr. Baird's department and we can put our heads together and come up with something over there that will at least mitigate most of it in that particular area.
Not that I don't want to go on firm. We've got people sending water, going to breakers. That just doesn't sound like a good idea.
We've probably
Agreed.
spent thousands of dollars in patch. We would patch us part of it. And then within 2 weeks, the next rain come, it was leaking in a different place. You know,
You just move it around. is all
Yeah,
you do.
I understand that. I'm just saying.
if we're going to inhabit that
patching
building,
Stuff is cheap.
if we're going to
And it may not
inhabit that
last,
building,
and
it
may
needs,
not work, but it's worth a try.
well, if we're going to inhabit the building, the roof needs to be, it needs to be fixed. It needs to be fixed right. In my opinion, I'm not for putting something on and then tearing it back off and wasting.
Yeah.
this-
So we just need to address, we're gonna have to address this in certain smaller ways and then do the whole thing.
We're staring at winter time. We all know it's the wettest part of our 12 months or 12 months in existence here. We're going to have to do something now to mitigate further damage. And if we decide to rip it off and just eat it, I think we don't need to let great get in the way or great get in the way of good.
I mean, it's up to the board. If you want us to, like I said, I have no problem with doing that back section. You know, if that's going to fix it, I'm just, like I said, it's up to the board if we want to go ahead and do it. As far as, I mean, he could patch some of it and maybe he used the term, he didn't even like to use the term patch because there's no guarantees, but you can throw a few $1,000s at patch and it still not work.
Well, I personally, I believe that if we're gonna do it, and I'm not against it at all, that we just should take his bid for $14,000 and do it right and replace the gutters back there in the back and just move on, because that whole roof does need to be replaced, but that's going to be a whole lot bigger can of worms than what we're looking at right here.
Well, if the gutters will help it,
If the gutters will help, the gutters, I promise you, the gutters will help it immediately. Won't cure it because there's still problems in the flat surface
Sure.
above, but what does make it to the perimeter of the roof, it will help that.
but I mean, 14,000 is chump change compared to the issues that we might have.
I agree. Well, one
We-
person
We're
being
gonna have to do it
injured.
anyway.
Yes.
We could reassess after we see what the gutters do.
Okay. I'm good with that.
What kind of, I mean, when we're talking about water, what kind of procedures do we have to keep our employees safe that are might be going in there and being around the electric, water being on the floor? I mean, are there procedures? Are there people that can guide us on when to go in, when not to go in, how to deal with problems over there?
Personally, I believe Mr. Baird's department's probably more qualified than any of us here to decide that. But my opinion.
I would actually probably list qualified city administrator. Capacity.
I would say the fire department needs to be involved, but also just our general employee safety protocol.
We wouldn't put somebody in there standing in water working on electrical. We
Sure.
would-
And I don't want to discredit you as the director. I just want to assure our employees as well as the department that we don't want to shortchange a solution, even if it's temporary, and weigh that over the safety of our folks. So I think, the point today is to get this passed, and I think I'm supportive of doing that. I just would encourage y'all that if we do need to spend the extra money to temporarily do that section for the safety of our employees in that electrical room, let's do it. And if we have to come back and find more money, let's do that. But that'd be my.
I'd be happy to have our building inspector stand for the best in my department to assist you with that.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to have him reach out.
Be great. That'd be great. And I think from what Jason was saying, they won't have to tear that whole section back off. They'll just have to take the barrier up and meet up to that one, whoever bids the secondary part, depending on how you do it.
And there's
Unless you
some
put a
considerations
pitch roof
with slope there too, with tapered insulation. We have to anticipate the slope. I mean, it's not just easy. It does take a little forethought and some calculation. And the biggest thing that we're going to have to deal with is the lead time on the tapered insulation.
It is. And
I do have some industry contacts in that piece that I will do my best to call in a favor with the large companies, see if we can't move that up.
And every time it rains, it's, we think, well, we got this leak here, and we get new leaks every time it rains, and it depends on, it's like when it started, back when Shirley was over there was a little bit of a leakage in that particular office. And then now it's actually in the police break room and in Heath's office, which was Shirley's office. And it's damaged flooring that we'll have to replace. And so as soon as we can get it done, I think the sooner the better.
My personal recommendation would be to accept the full bid and just fix any roof that's leaking over there, including the electrical. I mean, we got the temple, even if it's temporary. The cost of whatever this adds up to $17,000 for the back roof. Jump change compared to what we would spend if someone would do it. So,
I don't think anybody here.
I mean, yeah, there's,
disagree with that.
we're arguing over a minor amount. We're going to approve 50 some odd $1,000 here, and we're worried about another 17.
Well, that's actually the maximum spend did include that. The maximum spend of 69 did include that.
Okay.
So we are covered on that.
Yeah, my point was just to empower the committee and the director to go forward if they feel that that's the best move in the safety for our employees.
We need to try to get it done the month of October because the month of November is not going to be kind to any of us weather-wise. So we'll all work together to get this done as quickly as possible.
Was his, he can get the materials for doing this job without having to wait till December?
No.
He has to wait till December to get that, but not the August he was talking.
If we use tapered.
If we use the tapered.
Which is the better decision, but it might not be the ultimate decision.
Right. Okay.
If you put the flat, he can get the flat, but his recommendation is to put that tapered insulation on it to where the water's got somewhere to go instead of it bird bathing up there and causing more problems
On the offices.
on the offices.
You're gonna have to get Heath an umbrella then. I guess.
He's got some garbage cans over there. So,
We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Edward Brock,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Richard Kirby,
Yes.
Jack Sutton,
Yes.
Mayor Chester.
Aye, motion passes. Before we go on to ordinances, Nolan, is expenses like this something that the ARP funds could be used for?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And hers will cover back to March 1st of this year, so I don't know this, but any others that we might have incurred since March 1st will be covered.
Yeah, I just got got some information from the TML meeting that I went to last week. And March 1st or March 3rd, anything after that can be included under that. And I just got a text today from the controller's office, and it looks like anything that we do in-house can also be covered. and also other things that I had asked questions about. But that was one of the things that I asked is about in-house labor and that type of thing. So we need to be cognizant of when we use our own guys doing something like that, that we write them off to the ARP funds. Yeah, anything after March 1st or 3rd can qualify once they get the final rules.
All right, thank you. Item 10 is ordinances. Item 10A is ordinance number 1822, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee to appropriate funds to certain nonprofit charitable organizations and to certain nonprofit civic organizations to promote civic betterment, social improvements, and the health and general welfare of the residents of the city of McMinnville, and to promote the economic welfare of the city of McMinnville and its residents for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2022, in the aggregate amount of $444,000, $613, and to provide the conditions which the appropriations are made, and to express the time when the ordinance becomes effective. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Everett Brock,
Second.
second by Ms. Rachel Kirby. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Sally Brock.
Yes.
Lacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Jack Sutton,
Yes.
Richard Sutton.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10B is ordinance number 1823, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend section 101 of chapter 1, title 17 of the municipal code of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee, which outlines refuse definitions, and to amend chapter 1, title 17 of the municipal code of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee, to add section 17-126, which outlines special conditions, and to set the date that this ordinance shall become effective. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey.
Second.
Second by Mr. Everett Broad. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Lacy Harvey,
Aye.
Everett Brock,
Aye.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Richard Kirby,
Yes.
Jack Sutton,
Yes.
Richard Sutton.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 11 is departmental reports. I have several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to address the board, please step forward. Chair recognizes Kendall Mayfield.
I go let y'all know, October coming up, end of the week, and the fire department get ready to go pink again. So we're gonna be wearing a pink t-shirt for the whole month for breast cancer. So I'm hoping to take up money this year, but I'm gonna put a hold on that again. That way, it's coming back on us again. So, but we all gonna be out with a t-shirt on and doing what we can in the community for that. So that's all I got.
Chair recognizes Frank Southard.
I don't know if y'all knew, but we got the methane monitoring wells done. I think the bid was at 164,000, and they finished it with it'll be around $130,000. So we got it done a little quicker than they thought, saved a little money. So I'm glad it's done and over with. I think they're really working good. You can actually see the methane gas come out of them. So I think they're working really good. I hope it solves the problems.
Somebody told me they put some lids on them briefly, and the lids blew off.
Yeah, they come back later on and the lids were.
So they're working well.
Yeah.
Nolan, that's another one you might want to check on ARP funds too.
Yeah.
Chair recognizes Scott McCord.
Good evening. Just wanted to remind you this Thursday between 12 and 2, we will be having a planning session at the Park Theater. So we welcome everybody that can be there. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Mr. Mank.
We have Sip and Savor here in this room. Right. This whole room was filled with a lot of art. Some of the art's gone. But basically, those boards were placed out through here. Kids were here to show off their art, and they ended up selling for it. So we sold mocktails. They were a hit. So it was great. So that was very successful event. I hope we can do that next year. Also, update on Magnus Drive. We always hear that TDOT will never do a fence cut, and we got one. On the 22nd, we were granted the ingress and egress. It's called the granted access. So that's the Magnus Drive extension. So, currently scheduled for March letting and bid opening. Typically, construction would start about 30 days after bid opening. So we're looking at making those for construction. TDOT's construction office set the official time for construction completion. Once they have final construction plan, the current estimate is about 12 to 15 months. Will be scheduling the construction field review in the next few weeks, and that will be the final review and set of plans prior to that. We're getting close on that.
Excellent. Any other departmental reports? Mr. Purtle.
To Nolan's point, in 43 years of practice, and I represented TDOT for the North Chantry Street widening project back in the late 70s. This is the first fence cut I've ever heard for TDOT land. So it was a coup de grace for the city and the development of that section of the city. I have been asked, and I'm sure some of you have been approached about the Pet Center building. There's interest in leasing the building. There's different people interested in different uses for the building. The construction of the right-of-way will effectively preclude any serious consideration of that during the duration of the construction of the project, because we not only convey those portions of the right-of-way that we acquired that were necessary to build the street, we also granted 3-year temporary construction easements across parts of our property that'll be used by heavy equipment. So there won't be any ready access to the building on a regular basis once they get that equipment. So people are interested. I hope they remain interested, but it will be the completion of the project. Taking kind of serious action with the project.
Item 12 is announcements. Mr. Harvey, did you want to recognize Nathaniel Green?
I would like to, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Green, would you give us about a 3 or 4 minute synopsis of what we tried to get you in committee, but we got hamstrung by the roof?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so the reason that Ricky and I were on the committee agenda this week or this month was to discuss upgrades at the water treatment plant, which we've talked about since sometime last year. We did submit a request to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program for $4 million for an upgrade at the water treatment plant. We were ranked 10th. In order to secure that funding, we are supposed to turn in plans and specs by the end of December. In order to try to meet that timeframe, Ricky and I went ahead and began scheduling some different things. I've been coordinating on my end to have our electrical engineer come down from West Tennessee and review the site, review anything that would be necessary with respect to upgrading the electrical. Additionally, I have taken old plans and began reviewing with Ricky, in particular, the pipe gallery, sedimentation basin outside, chemical storage facilities, and have just begun a general layout of the treatment plant. We will, if we are going through state revolving fund loan, we have additional items that we have to provide to them beyond plans and specifications. One of those things is a facilities planning document, which we're well suited to do that. We actually just did one back in 2016 whenever we applied for the upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. So now hearing, of course, with the roofing, with all that you've heard tonight, you know that costs are going up. Things are becoming more expensive right now. Lead times are increasing, labor is increasing. So we've actually taken that estimate of $4 million up to $5.7 million right now. I'm trying to project that into the future, assuming that we would be done sometime in 2024, 2025. Additionally, I do realize that there are going to be some other infrastructure funds that come down, whether you wanted to look into using some of your ARP funding toward this project, that would be something that you could look at. But I do know that there will be additional infrastructure funds that will come more than likely from state revolving fund loan that could offset that increase that we're seeing. But at the same time, whenever I had brought the original cost estimate to you, I anticipated an interest rate of somewhere around 1.8%. If you were to look at the amortization schedule for that, you would see approximately $240,000 per year in principal and interest that you'd be paying at the $4 million. We came to find out that as we were ranked, we received a 0.42% interest rate that we would likely have. Now, TDEC, they, for their own administrative purposes, they put on a 0.08%, so that would take us to 0.5%. Even with the increase of $1.7 million, looking at it over a 20-year term, that would only be a $60,000 a year increase in what your amortization would be. Typically, you also receive up to 20% grant on something like that. If we did receive that 20% grant, or say you put some ARP funds into the project, that could reduce it back down to that $240,000 a year number. And in fact, at 20%, it would reduce it exactly to the $240,000 a year that we were looking at spending. Now, when we were at the TAUD conference, I know some of you had heard that whenever you pledge ARP funds, you also get an additional 36% on top of that that would come from the state that could go toward water and sewer, and only toward water and sewer that you would get that additional. In looking at that, let's just say that you didn't get any grant, you didn't get 20% grant like I'm talking about. If you were to put in approximately $985,000, you get that additional 36% grant on top of it. That would also offset and get you back down to that $240,000 per year number in amortization. So got a lot of stuff going on. I don't know exactly where you want me to end the conversation tonight, though.
One of the other thing that I found at the TML meeting is that you can take the ARP funds and use them as a match for the part that you have to pay to the state from the state funds. That was it, FRF?
SRF.
And there's supposed to be, those funds are going to come down at a 20 to 40% match, and you can use the ARP funds for that match. So you're doubling up.
Sure. And I think taking advantage of anything that you can on that is important to do. I did also find out through some conversations that I had, it's very preliminary, but there's an additional, beyond what we're talking about in ARP funds, there's an additional approximately $1.3 billion for the state of Tennessee, 1.3 billion for us.
That's what I was talking about, is the state kept a portion of that, and they're going to dole that out at 20 to 40%.
Sure. Sure. And it's going to be non-competitive and they're going to dole it out to the county. So you have to have a
Yeah.
relationship with the county to get it.
That's exactly right. It was non-competitive and it's just wide open. But to take the 20 to 40% that you're gonna have to pay, you can use the ARP funds for that.
Sure. So,
Well, all that to say that there's a lot going on at water and sewer.
Very good.
Thank you, Nathaniel. I appreciate it. Sorry to
No,
hold you guys so late, but
No,
thank you
that's-
very much.
that's okay. And I do just want to ask, as far as procedure goes, do we need to have another water and sewer committee meeting to discuss again, since there's a,
I would believe we do, don't you, Shirley, that we'll have to have another one. I apologize for that.
no, that's fine.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other announcements to come before the board? We will have a continuation of the water and wastewater committee meeting immediately following, but we will stand adjourned for the full board meeting.
So we want to pick back up. Raw, I just want to be sure I'm a little lost here. Do we want to pick back up to our discussion or I guess we didn't call a vote, right?
Discuss the water treatment plant upgrades and all.
That was what Nathaniel just did. That he,
Is that,
Just use this as your committee meeting.
then never mind.
okay, all right. I think we're good. I think we're good.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the water treatment plant roof is built in 1960.
Oh, there was that filters. Didn't we discuss something about filters too, along with your upgrade at the water treatment plant? We discussed that. Were they put in the 60s?
Yeah, just to answer some questions on
Yeah,
that. That we went,